Hello, welcome to another episode of Word Mentality on Grammar and Thongs, where I look at the origin of words. Today I want to look at the word phony. Now you may know the novel The Catcher in the Rye by J.D. Salinger, and the main character in that novel, Holden Caulfield, is a big fan of this word, phony. So I thought it was worth exploring. It's got an interesting little story behind it. There's two ways to spell phony. That's the first thing to note. This is the way you'd spell it in the United States, so that's the way Holden Caulfield would spell it. But if you're in Britain or Australia, for example, then we've got the extra E. And I'll explain why we've got that E in a minute. Either way, they mean the same thing. They can either be an adjective, meaning not genuine, so you can say he's a real phony person, or they can be a noun, as in he's a phony. So a fraudulent person or a thing, you can use it as a noun. Okay, so someone or something that isn't authentic, that isn't genuine. That's a phony. Now, this extra E, to explain that, we go back to this old Irish word, phony. And that's got the E. And that's sort of where the origin of the word is. So that might explain why we've got the E. And this comes from a scam that used to be run a couple of 100 years ago called a phony rig. And what would happen with the phony rig is the scam artist would have a gilded brass ring that would look like a gold ring, look like a very valuable ring, and would put it on the footpath and then would wait for an unsuspecting victim to come along. They'd see the ring and go to pick it up, and the scam artist would then go to pick it up at exactly the same time. So there'd be this moment of confusion where they both felt like they'd spotted the ring. The scam artist would very kindly say, well, look, I think we've both got a claim to this, but if you give me $20, you can have the ring. And if that ring looked like it was worth $100, then the victim is thinking they've got a good deal, when really they've just given $20 to a scam artist for a worthless ring, because it was a phony. That's where the word comes from. Now, you would think, or I did when I read this, that maybe that's also where we get the idea of fawning over somebody, because you're being a real phony if you're like fawning over someone and being overly nice to them. But apparently that comes from a different part of the language, more where we get the word fawn in relating to deer. But I think it's interesting that if you go back further in history, you get to this Irish word, fein, which means a finger or a ring on a finger. And so, if you are fawning over someone with kings and popes, often that involved getting down on your knees and kissing the ring or kissing the finger of a person. So in that way, there is a nice parallel between those two words, even if they're not from the same origin. But there you go, phony. It's an interesting word.